Welcome to Getting Defensive Weekend Primer presented by Gridiron Ratings. I'm your host, J.J. Wenner. And to quote George Washington from Hamilton, one last time, we get this right, we're going to teach them how to say championships, baby. That's right. This is the week for your championships. We're ready to help you with all of your start, sit decisions. Oh, I am excited. With me is Gridiron Ratings Senior IDP Analyst. You can find him on Twitter at the IDP Tipster, Gary Van Dyke. How are you doing, Gary?
I'm doing pretty good. I had a little technical difficulty with the other computer, so you're getting a side view tonight, folks. Hey,
well, at least it's your good side.
Well, I hope so.
Do you have a good side, Gary?
Yeah,
being honest
yeah. I don't know. Probably this side. So, anyhow, I appreciate all the interaction I've gotten with people, and I just wanted to mention before we get started, folks. Hey, come on over to YouTube, hit our YouTube chat up. We're stoked to have everybody. There's no Thursday night game, and we'd love to answer your questions.
Absolutely. Also with us tonight is our returning champion. You can find him on Twitter at Dynasty Tripp Brebner. What's going on, brother?
And it's a good night. We're one more week to go with the regular season or with fantasy season, and we got championships and belts to give out. It's great. I can tell you that I don't have a good side. I don't try. So congrats to Gary for mixing it up.
I like that. I do have a good side, but she's downstairs watching some TV. So
there you go.
Sorry, you only get this one. Before we get started, gentlemen, Gary, you wanted to share some news with the listeners?
About these start-sit charts. Yes. Thank you so much. Like I said, it was total chaos. And I'm going to be a little bit edgy. I'm sure that I'll crash and burn at some point. Anyhow, I've opened up the start-sit charts this week, at least the inside linebacker, the edge rusher, which is the 4-3 DEs and the 3-4 outside edge rushing linebackers, and then the start-sit charts for the safeties, the interior defensive linemen. And it's all out appreciation for the great year we've had at Gridiron Ratings and people out there that's helped support us on Twitter and other formats. And it's just the last week. We want to do it, and I even if you're not in it, I'm going to ask you to go over and check it out because it's going to give you a little preview of what you'll get next year if you were to join us and become a member of Gridiron Ratings. Search some names. Best way to use those charts. You're going to have somebody on the waiver wire look their name up. If you're looking your own guys up, you don't have to use that whole format unless you're really headhunting. And usually, only thing you got to do is just search the words eyes on. You go eyes on, and you're going to see anything that might stick out to me as a flyer, an avoid, or somebody to stock up, stock down. Anything like that is going to have those words, and it's going to pull it up to the top for you. So you at least have an idea what's going on around the league. So I appreciate it. You check those out. Check us out next year. We're going to be taking a little bit of break from this after next week here at Getting Defensive. We're going to catch our breath and come full force back probably at the beginning of February talking about Dynasty. We're going to have to spit out some rookies, I'm sure. But, we're going to come and bring you everything we got again in 2022. Thanks.
All right. Well, what better way to start than with a question from Seth Morissette. Thank you, Seth, for joining on. Gary, who do you like best this week at DL? Myles Garrett, D-Law, or would you go pick up Cam Jordan?
Well, I can tell you right now, I was telling everybody that would listen to me on our charts at Gridiron Ratings last week that Myles Garrett is playing with a groin injury. And it's serious. It was serious enough that, he's playing through a groin injury. It's not something that they're not talking about. So, and he flopped last week. And to be honest, on paper, he doesn't have the best matchup this week anyhow. It's a almost like it was last week. And if he's got that groin injury, I'm sitting him unless I have somebody like Lawrence, which has a solid, actually with some upside kind of matchup. The only reason he ain't full-blown strong matchup is because he's sharing time with Armstrong and Gregory. So they're dividing that kind of production up between three of them. So, but he's solid. But to tell you the truth, I probably wouldn't be sitting Garrett normally for Jordan earlier in the season, but the matchup that him and Davenport have this week are both strong. So get them in your lineups. Out of those, I mean, your upside is all with Cam Jordan, but Lawrence is a solid play over Garrett for me.
Tripp, which way are you going?
I'd go on ahead and pick up Cam Jordan out of those. That's an interesting that he's on the waiver wire. He has double-digit. He has 2 sacks in each of the last 2 games. He has 11 total tackles across these 2 games. And the last time they played the Panthers, he had 7 tackles, including a tackle for loss. And so out of those 3 choices, I mean, they're going to roll out Cam. They're not going to play Cam Newton this week. They're going to roll out Sam Darnold. And he was sitting duck back there, some of the games that he played. So I like Jordan for sure out of those 3.
All right. Very good. Well, let's kick off our game. Seth, I hope that helped you. Before we get to some more questions, let's start with our Sunday 1 p.m. games. Giants at the Bears. Jalen Smith, we saw the jump to 75% of the snaps. Are we good starting Jalen Smith, Tripp?
I mean, you got to have some nerve to do it, but I don't hate it. I mean, it's kind of an interesting spot there out there. We talked about it a couple weeks ago when I thought this might happen, and here it is. So, I mean, if you are in a league where 14 teams and you're looking at starting 3 to 4 linebackers in a more of a tackle-heavy scenario, then yeah, I mean, that's a good place to go, I think. So especially if he's on the waiver wire and in the championship spot, somebody gets COVID, you need a spot start, pick him up, put him in there.
Gary, can you believe we've hit that part of the season where we're about to start Jalen Smith and championship week?
I mean, how wild has it been? To see a lot of these players just floating around, come full circle. It's been a crazy year. I haven't got any problem. I mean, he didn't do well with that 75% of the snaps last week. I think he didn't score much, but he's got the snaps, the matchup solid. If you need a guy, hey, I mean, right now, you got 2 teams in a championship. People got good players locked down on their rosters, and there's not much on the waiver wire in some of these deeper formats. He's looking pretty shiny right now.
Tripp, any other guys you're starting or sitting in this matchup? Anybody you want to point out to us?
One guy I'm looking at is Lorenzo Carter, who is also a linebacker, but he's an edge defender for the Giants, and he's just been on fire lately. That guy is recovering from an Achilles. I think he had an Achilles last year that cost him most of the season, and he does not look good all year. But then again, an Achilles is a serious injury. It can take 12, 13 months to come back from it full strength. We've seen guys,
or 4 months if you are
if you're
Cam Akers.
I guess they put a titanium rod in his friggin' ankle or something. I don't know what, but that one's mystery to me. But Lorenzo Carter's finally showing something. He's a guy that's in his 4th year. He's flashed a couple times in his career, but not really put it all together consistently. The last 2 games, he's been pretty impressive. That's a guy that I think has a nice matchup because I think Justin Fields will be back, and even if he's not, Nick Foles isn't exactly the quickest release in the planet. So I think Carter's a pretty attractive matchup in this one.
All right, before we jump to our next matchup, B.R. Gordy asks, how do we feel about Des King if Trey Lance starts? Tripp, that's right up your alley.
Yeah. So you're talking about what, 13, 14 pass attempts coming. I said, man, it was night and day difference from what they had last week, where they somehow got the Chargers playing uphill. I like to call the Chargers the Clippers, but long story. But anyhow, they got the Chargers playing uphill the whole game, and pass heavy game script, and they had 2 cornerbacks just piling on stats between King and Javier Thomas, and there's just no way that happens again with Trey Lance out there. It's going to be a run heavy game, and I just don't see how you can turn back to your Texans cornerbacks this game.
All right, let's look at the Jags versus the Patriots. Now, Gary, after going back and forth on Josh Allen last week, he didn't freaking play. All that airtime. Wasted.
Yep.
Well, I'm not sure if you can guess why he didn't play. There's a thing called COVID going around. I don't know if you guys heard of it. It's really messing with lineups. But, yeah, there is absolutely no way you should be starting Josh Allen this week, even if healthy. Don't listen to anybody. The Pats do not give up any points to defensive ends at all. Actually, that's not true. Gary, who scored points against the Bucs at defensive end?
Oh, you know something? Guess what? I have been updating, and for the last 3 to 4 weeks, the Bucs have been climbing up and allowing those points off the edge. So, hey, I can't win them all, right?
Wide receivers can't get open. Brady's got to stand back there and bat the ball. That's all there is to it.
Right.
That's true, especially with Godwin out. What about Evans? Evans is coming. Oh, sorry. Gary, put on your earmuffs. Evans coming back with a hamstring. Do we even worry about that, Tripp?
I think he's on the COVID list too, man. I mean, offense wise, I wouldn't be excited to play him unless I had to. I've set one lineup. I think I've got T.Y. Hilton going instead. I might revisit that before kickoff, but that's where I'm at right now.
Wow.
Hey, I just want to mention real quick too.
Pretty.
I just wanted to mention real quick too, B. Gordy, the reason that you hit me up with this question right before we was going live, and I asked you to bring it over here, was because of Tripp. He had your answer, and it's why I sent you here, because I couldn't have answered that correctly. I could have gave you a rating or a matchup, but when it comes to cornerbacks, it's not my forte yet. I'm trying. Of course, I've been trying all year and haven't done very well.
Well, speaking of forte and offensive players, let's stick with the dirty O with Craig Reed. Asks Gary, Justin Herbert or Kyler Murray this week? Gary?
There's actually an IDP question at the top. You could have brought that on, but no, you brought the dirty O on.
You know what, Craig Reed? We're not talking dirty O, buddy. You can just stop streaming. We're not doing it.
Yeah, not doing it for you, man. It's too much.
Here is his real question: Legerius Sneed or Javon Holland?
Holland for me.
Well, this is Legerius Sneed. He's a top. I think he's a top 15 cornerback or so. And Javon Holland's one of those guys that hangs out deep all the time. Now, the one thing is that the Dolphins are really getting blitz hype. It's like they've become what the Ravens were last year, where they just bring in the house every time. And so Javon Holland was flying down from 25 yards deep a couple of plays against the Saints. Now, that's in part because the Saints aren't threatening anyone downfield.
I'm going to get defensive with you, Tripp. Because I'll tell you what, when I was watching you, it wasn't just last game. They've been actually using him and Brandon Jones on a lot of downs up there close. I'm pretty sure that Holland has been in that box quite a bit, and that's how he's gotten his sacks, and then he's gotten a couple tackle for losses and such. I think that's how he was lighting it up before his injury. So I like safeties. And I like Holland for that reason. I'm going to picture and roll with him. But if you say Sneed is a top 15, I can believe that too. I'm just not a safe or a corner guy. Not if I have a safety like Holland sitting there with a lot of upside to him.
How would you feel if I told you Legerius Sneed is not a corner? He's a slot corner.
There you go.
Which makes all the difference, right?
That's right.
Right? See, I listen.
It does. It does, but I can't do it.
And they got Joe Burrow coming off a 525-yard performance where they're throwing the ball over the yard. I'm interested to see if this becomes a drag meet against KC next week or this coming week.
It could be exciting, right? If those two offenses both show up.
No, that would be. It could be some fireworks in that game, and that's what I would count on, is that high snap count really benefiting me. Where I have Miami playing Tennessee. And, it's not awful. I don't hate that matchup. But to me, I love Brandon Jones. And to me, there's a pretty clear differentiation in the way they're deployed. And so I would lean Sneed on this one. Just
say it, Tripp. You're getting defensive.
Agree, so.
Just say it, Tripp. You're getting defensive. I hear you over here, man.
All right, gentlemen.
Is this on?
I don't want to see an IDP fight. Let's
go
over to the Rams.
Well, we can't leave them hanging. We can't leave them hanging. Now, I think the best way to approach this is get your coin and flip it, because it doesn't sound like you're going to go wrong either way.
Well, actually, I'm pretty sure
it's a good problem.
When Gary and Tripp fight, I make the decision, and I'm going with Legerius Sneed. I love
it. Yeah. I should have seen that coming a mile away.
Great name. Fantastic name.
Yeah.
I have him in a few leagues, and I think this is going to be a shootout. So I think he's going to be getting a lot of action. Rams at Ravens. If I may, Mr. Jones and me. I'm so sorry, Gary. I know you're devastated.
That's all right. That's all right.
The loss of Ernest. Troy Reeder, Travon Howard kind of picked up the snaps after he left. Are you comfortable starting Reeder this week, Gary?
Oh, Reeder's stepping right in for Jones, where Jones had that. I kept saying how he had a strong, solid rest of the season like weeks ago. This is it, folks. This is red hot. Get Reeder in there. And as far as Howard, I still can't trust Howard enough unless you're really in a deep league, or if you're really needing to get somebody off the waiver wire. I mean, if he plays the Reeder role, he's probably only going to see about 45 for 50% of the snaps. Now, I know he played 38% of the snaps last week, and I also know that he produced pretty well. But, folks, when you're playing the odds, that's for him to repeat that with the limited amount of snaps, that's pretty risky. So, I wouldn't go dropping any solid guys that you've been using already just to think that he's going to overproduce. But I like Reeder as a solid to strong play.
Tripp, anybody in this matchup you're keeping an eye on?
The one thing I would look at is Taylor Rapp. There have been people, I'm sure, been holding this guy all year saying, is he ever going to do anything? Well, if you've been holding this long, now's the time. Go ahead and plug him in there. He's going to be looking at some Mark Andrews. He might have to chip in on the run support. That now's the time. Plug that guy in your lineup. That's where I like on the Rams. On the Ravens side, Tony Jefferson came back from the dead last week. It was really, fascinating. That guy, it was a decent player for the Ravens. I feel like it was 3 years ago. He pops an ACL early in the season. I want to say that was 2019. And he just vanished. All of a sudden he's back. They put him in there because Brandon Stevens just lays an egg. Just rookie safety who has cornerback eligibility and NFL. That guy freaking lays an egg. Tony Jefferson comes out and plays well. And now Tony Jefferson has a chance to come out and make an impact. So if there are folks out there thinking they have a hole at safety and need to pick somebody up, Tony Jefferson is interesting. Now, he's a risk. I mean, Brandon Stevens might just go ahead and get the work, and they might share snaps or something like that. But Jefferson was productive. He has a history of being a productive IDP, and that's kind of interesting for me. So that's the guy that I'm looking at. After that, Claudius Campbell's coming back from I think a injury and COVID list, if I'm not mistaken. That's not a guy that I'd be eager starting this one. The matchup isn't that awful for him, but it's just with those circumstances, I would not be plugging him back in there.
Yeah, I'm avoiding all the Baltimore deals if I can. Queen's back on fire. You got to play him. Maybe some Chuck Clark. Like you said, Tony Jefferson. What a story, But I'm not reaching for him if I can avoid him. I think it was what you were saying too. Mm-hmm. The cornerback's a good matchup.
I've been struggling with the cornerbacks on this. Tavon Young has been remarkably unproductive as a tackler, as a slot defender and a tackler this year, and he's the primary slot. It could be fine. Last week, I mentioned on the show that I was looking at Mackenzie Alexander, just couldn't give him a full-throated endorsement covering Cooper Kupp just because of what he's been doing this season and not playing full-time. Well, Alexander had 14 tackles. 8 of them were assists, but there's potential here. There's upside, but there's also the downside. And Young has had times before where I thought he was a pretty good start, and he gets 2 tackles. So it's kind of a boom bust play here. I'm not eager to
right. Better plays out there. Cool.
We have a question from one of our most dedicated listeners, Lynn Gelman. Championship game, start 1 IDP. Devondre is the go-to. Tremaine Edmonds, Bobby Okereke, CJ Mosley, TJ Edwards, and TJ Watt are on waivers. Which way do we go? I'm going CJ Mosley. Mosley has been putting up tons of tackle stats every week that he is healthy. I mean, I'm not sure where he ranks overall in the year, but the leagues I have him in, he is always putting up double-digit tackles. So I am definitely leaning CJ Mosley out of those options.
Yeah. On paper, I agree with you. On paper, the matchup isn't ideal because the Bucs have been passing a lot and have the receivers, but that's a season-long situation. Lately, they're short receivers, and they are going to need to run the ball some more. You would expect them to be playing downhill in this game and to run more. And like you said, Mosley's been piling up stats all year. Now's not the time to turn away from him.
Oh, I love Mosley, but just I'm going Campbell. He's got the strongest matchup between everybody out there. Matter of fact, I do believe he's got a top matchup. So he might end up being in that top 3 performing inside linebackers this week. So I believe who they have. I just looked at it and it slipped my mind.
I think they got the Minnesota Vikings. I think we're in agreement. Everybody's on board. I think that Devondre is your LB1 here. The question is, who's your LB2?
Yeah.
So we go Devondre, followed by Mosley, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All right. Mm-hmm. Well, gentlemen, let's move on to the next matchup, which is Bucs at the Jets. Now, obviously, we're starting all the Bucs edge rushers, right? JPP is a must start if healthy.
No. He's another one. He's playing through injury. I can't remember what it is, his shoulder or something.
He's playing through a partially torn labrum, and he's delaying surgery. And he's not been effective. They've had to limit him to the right side because it's his right shoulder, so that he doesn't take too much wear on his right shoulder. But he didn't play at all last week. I'm not sure he's playing this week. I wouldn't be surprised.
He's questionable
if they just shut him down until they get the playoffs going here. They've got their division locked up. They can't get a bye because there's only one team gets a bye. Well, I guess they could mathematically, but I'm pretty sure the Packers are on the inside track. So for me, I think they shut him down. I think they roll out Joe Tryon and Anthony Nelson this week. And Tryon, I think, is a good start. He's played pretty well on limited opportunities. And Anthony Nelson got a sack last week, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a deep guy. I mean, that's a guy, if you need an edge rusher, if you want some upside as a big play scoring league, he's a guy you can pick up off your waiver wire and plug in your lineup this week. So I'm assuming that JPP plays little to none this week. I could be wrong, obviously, but that's what I'm basing my recommendations on.
So we're looking at Tryon Shoyinka.
Yeah, was your ears burning Tuesday, JJ? Because I was talking about you, because I remember when at the beginning of the season you said something about Tryon and we all laughed, right? We actually got a pretty good giggle out of that. Well, lo and behold, it's the Jets, and he might be running from that blind side. He'd probably be best even if JPP played, if they gave him the blind side, because he's nice and healthy. So, he should be solid this week. That's pretty interesting, kind of a full circle for me.
All right, let's go back. Seth Morset has a question for us. We just talked about Devondre Campbell, but he's asking who has more upside, him or Fred Warner. He's been playing Warner all year, but which way does he go? Gary? Gary's starting to type. Tripp, you go first.
Yeah, I just wanted – I think I got this one remembered. I'm pretty sure that you'll still want to go Campbell, but go ahead, Tripp.
Warner's a good player. He just seems to have a ceiling as an LB2 in that defense. And they're playing Houston this week. And, I guess Rex Burkhead could tear it up again but I think that's unlikely. I think I'm going to bet. We were wrong last week when we were betting on game flow, but I'm going to bet on game flow this week and say that the 49ers will be playing downhill. And this is a game where I would expect the 49ers will want to shorten the game, right? Because we talked about how Lance is going to throw 14 times in the game. So I think the tackle opportunities could be down across the board if they're able to kill the clock effectively. And, I think Warner's fine. I mean, you don't want to sit him if you have to start 3 linebackers, but if your choices are between him and Devondre Campbell, I think Campbell is a smash start.
That's a good position to be in, Seth.
Mm-hmm. Warner's just solid. Warner's just solid this week with that matchup. Houston's not going to feed them enough. All your upside and higher ceiling should lie with Campbell.
Right. Let's look at the next matchup is the Falcons at the Bills. Now, the Bills will have some more of their weapons back, except for Manny Sanders. Does this affect who we are starting on the Falcons trip?
Well, it seems like that the Falcons, the way to go here for me is AJ Terrell. And even though this game seems to be like it would be a run heavy game script, the Bills have been, man, I mean, when's the last time the Bills had a really effective running game that you were afraid of? I mean, Devin Singletary's put up some fantasy points lately, but man, it seems like when they need to run the ball, they just don't do it very well. They just need to throw to win. And they've been giving up, pushing a lot of points out to the cornerback position lately. And AJ Terrell's a good player. He kind of fits that long rangey type that gets his hand on the ball that I like to chase. And he's been a productive corner all year. I think he's a CB2 on the Fantasy Pros scoring ranks or close to it anyhow. And he's a guy that I'm getting out there. I think he'll see some Trevon Diggs and he'll see some Gabriel Davis and he'll have an opportunity for some plays and at least for some tackles. And so that's a guy that I kind of like this week.
Now, Gary, Kyle Pitts has the third most targets ever for a rookie tight end, behind only two Giants, Jeremy Shockey and Evan Ingram. As the lawyers would say, who benefits? Who's covering Kyle Pitts?
Who they're playing again?
The Bills.
Yeah, I got lost in Tripp's
eyes.
I'm still always amazed
every
time, man. I mean, gee whiz, dude.
I need to short it up.
Lay it out. Don't hold back. Don't hold back. I love it. Well, you're probably looking at a combination of Hyde and Poyer. Milano, get some of that. I don't think that I liked it this much this week for either one of them. I don't think that I'm sitting either one. I'm not sitting Porter. I'm sure of that. But let me just double check. And I spelled it wrong. How you spell it, man?
Poyer?
Poyer? Like Foyer?
I'm just kidding.
Man,
I swear
I'm glad you're not in my ELA class, buddy.
Right,
have
right.
Some issues. Lots of
grade school kids could put me to shame, right? Anyways, stand up, Johnny. Tell Gary how to spell that. So, I've only got the matchup as solid for Poyer, and I'm pretty sure I went just solid for Hyde. I don't expect him to plateau. I actually expect the Bills to kind of run over this. I figure Deion Jones and Okalune are going to be pretty busy. So I don't know how much opportunity Pitts is going to get. That's some, I wouldn't expect a huge game from Pitts this week.
All right. Another start-sit question from Reddit. User 5-star Flair. Jordan Brooks or Darius Leonard? Where are we going, Tripp?
The first thing is Leonard clear the protocol. They had to change the rules so that he would be eligible to return. So, but you still have, just because you're eligible doesn't mean you are going to heal up or recover from COVID and be on the field. So that's a big outstanding issue. So that remains to be seen on that. Brooks, both of those guys are, I think that Brooks is, I think I saw it at like LB5 or something on the season. Somebody posted. I'm not sure what scoring that is, but. And then you got Darius Leonard is obviously a good player that's hard to sit. I can say that Josh Jacobs has finally had a big game last week, and so it's a tough spot. I mean, the other thing you got to keep in mind is does Carson Wentz clear COVID protocol? Because if he doesn't, that changes the game script situation, and that makes you nervous too, right? I mean, if the Colts are coming out that incapacitated, we saw last week with the Broncos. The Broncos play Drew Lock because Teddy Bridgewater is hurt, and they've allowed so few tackle opportunities to the opposing defense that it makes you nervous. So there's a lot of factors in here that make me uncomfortable. So without knowing who's in and who's out, it's hard to say. But let's say that Leonard and Wentz both clear the protocol. Then I think that I would go ahead and play Leonard instead of Brooks, even though I don't dislike Brooks' matchup with the Lions. But it's one of those things where the Seattle could blow them out. I see I don't blowing anybody out. but it's Lions. You just don't know what you're going to get. There's a lot of risk with the Lions as a matchup, and so I think I would stick with Darius Leonard, especially in a championship game, man. If you're playing for championship and you're not playing Darius Leonard, and that costs you the matchup, you'll never forget it.
And the good thing is, with the way scheduling works this week, you put in Darius Leonard. If he's not active, well, Jordan Brooks plays at 4.
It's super easy, right? Yeah, it makes the decision.
So it's a super easy switch.
Mm-hmm.
Just stay on top of it. Don't be surprised, right?
Right.
Championship week. You're paying attention.
Yep.
You're paying attention to who's starting. All right. Next game. Chiefs at Bengals. Kind of touched on this a little bit earlier. Logan Wilson is leaning towards playing. Welcome back, buddy. Gary, we're firing him up, right? If he's healthy.
I mean, yeah, it's another one of those situations, though. If you got you there, you got to use them. But I'm going to tell you what, if he's, if I'm only playing 1 or 2 linebackers, hopefully I'm going to have somebody else. I'm going to have a better, more solid, not a guy coming off of missing 3 games to put in there. If you're in that 3 to 4 linebacker, yeah, you got to get him in there. It's only a solid matchup. I got to be honest, and it's kind of a trend. I just wish these guys would either go on COVID and stay and let us know what the hell's going on, or guys like Logan his situation is not COVID, but it seems like it's just another wrench in the thing, because I believe if it was Pratt, who's been playing and doing well, I think it would be a solid, almost borderline strong outcome. But because Logan Wilson's missed some time and he's going to come in, but he's probably going to take most of the snaps away from Pratt, that makes both of them just solid guys. They're going to get you a little bit of, they're not going to disappoint you, but they're not going to ever hit their ceiling side by side. I just couldn't bet on that this week.
I agree with everything you said, except that I think that Pratt may be out. And so I don't know if that changes your calculus. It doesn't for mine. I think the way you talked about the injury situation. Yeah, I would not be eager to play him if I had to play 4 linebackers. Yeah, he's in there. It's hard to imagine having 4 or 5 better linebackers. But the sleeper to look at here is none of those guys play.
We play 4 linebackers in ours. The one JJ's in. Oh, JJ, we're in a championship. And the writers thing. Yes, I'm sorry, Tripp. Go right ahead. But yeah, we play 4. I'm glad to get you in these deeper leagues, Tripp.
I don't play it. It's interesting to have these questions. Like Cam Jordan's on waivers, TJ Watt's on. I mean, he maybe wasn't on waivers, but some of these questions are just like, it's we're talking to folks that are starting 6, and all of my leagues start at least 9, I think. So, not that I can't comment on 6, I can, but it's just interesting that's the nature of the questions. It's interesting. I'm cool. I'm glad that people are playing IDP. That's awesome. But yeah,
right.
Bailey, because I'm in leagues that have 14, 16 teams and they have 50, 60 roster spots.
Right. And I'm glad that you brought that up, Tripp, because yes, we're a little bit more experienced, and we do lean towards, if we were just talking in general, we would be talking about some deeper plays for deeper leagues. So please, folks, please keep bringing these questions to us for these standard size leagues. That way we can help you there too, to split those hairs. We're used to playing a few more guys each week. So this helps us. And believe it or not, if you're asking these questions, somebody else out there is thinking the same thing.
100%. Hey, we got a new question in from Brian Berkey. Thanks for asking the question, Brian. 1 IDP spot, CJ Mosley, Alex Singleton, Eric Kendricks. So we talked about CJ Mosley before. Eric Kendricks or Singleton, either of those guys overtake Mosley?
I'm going to look. I got to look. I'm thinking I got
certainly playing Mosley. The question is, do you like Eric Kendricks enough to play him ahead of Singleton? And I prefer Singleton's matchup. For me, the answer is no. I play the guys who got me there. I really like Eric Kendricks as a player, and I'm going to stick with him.
Especially against the Packers. They pass-heavy team. He's great in coverage. He's the quarterback. He's back and healthy.
I'm going Mosley myself on this one.
Yeah, I'm leaning Mosley. in this match.
Oh, I'm sorry. He says 1. Oh, I was thinking 2. See, there I am with my deep league hat on.
So we're going with CJ Mosley, Eric Kendricks, Alex Singleton, Brian, in that order.
Yep.
All right. Next game up is Dolphins at Titans. David Long returns. Gary, I know that's Long.
Yeah, well, this is just another one of those situations between them and Houston. I'll tell you what, I was filling out the charts going, man, this sucks. I think somebody, just went on IR. One of them, no, wait a minute, maybe that was Houston. So either way, this is one of those teams. Play who's healthy. I don't trust anybody but Zach Cunningham, to tell you the truth. Okay, Zach is part of Tennessee now, right?
Yeah.
All right. Because I'll be going back and forth so they like Zach a lot. And I know Long's coming back, but Zach already sent Javon Brown to the bench. All right. And right now, then they've been playing Evans and they've been playing Cunningham. So bringing Long into the fold, I could have swore I seen that he might have went on COVID. Somebody did. But bringing that into the situation, we don't know if they're going to go Long over Evans, to tell you the truth, because it was actually last year. If you look at the snap counts from last year, there were quite a few games that's what Long did, was send Evans to the bench. So it's complete what's happening here. So if I could, I'm avoiding the whole situation in all formats if I can possibly do it. But if you're stuck, you're stuck. I hope you're stuck with Zach Cunningham, because I think he's the only one that we could really trust going into this.
I can't believe you just said the words "really trust" and Zach Cunningham in the same sentence.
Oh, I know. It was so terrible, but they just love him. They think that, it's his former coaching staff too. So,
I got to get defensive on that one. I think that if you're trying to choose a Tennessee linebacker, I think you have to choose Long. He's the play caller. And it's not an ideal matchup. I'm not rushing to grab him and put him in there, but that's, if I'm choosing there, that's who I'm going. For this game,
you're going against my number one rule right there.
What's that now?
You don't play them when they first come off IR. I don't give a shit if they do. Oh, pardon my language. I'm not getting that defensive, folks. Believe me. But either way,
I didn't know we were going blue, Gary.
Just because they're slapping a sticker on the back of his helmet and telling us that, man, it worries me. In championship week, Tripp, I can't play a guy to just come off IR, especially if I haven't been counting on him this whole time.
Well, gentlemen, I felt terrible because somebody asked last week that they needed 2 points. And they gave me a list of players to start, and one was Jalen Phillips. I said, of course you start Jalen Phillips, because how could he not get you 2 points when he's been playing so well?
Yeah.
Well, despite playing 26 snaps, he failed to record a single stat, something he hadn't done since week 7 when he played 24%. That was his season low. So again, don't ever listen to me. But are we?
Oh no, it was a good matchup, man. It was a good matchup, and everybody else across the defensive line had a good day. Even Van Winkle, whatever his name is.
Van Winkle, yeah.
But here's the question: the Titans give up the 4th most points to defensive ends. Are we starting Jalen Phillips this week, or not unless we have to?
I put in there. I think I put in there that, it's basically one of those things. If you own him, it's a good matchup. The guy faltered last week. If you was depending on him at that level before, as your DL3 or whatever it might be, then go ahead and play him. Am I dropping some of these? Am I not playing Garrett over him? Now that one's questionable. I might still go ahead and go Garrett just to be safe, but Phillips does have a good matchup. I wouldn't be scared to use him.
All right, let's go back to the comments. Seth Morissette asks, Jalen Thompson or Logan Ryan? Final one, high five or prayers. I'm not sure what that is. High five. Who are you going with, Jalen Thompson or Logan Ryan? Tripp?
I think I'd have to lean Thompson. I wouldn't feel good about it. Logan Ryan seems to me like just the better commodity out of those two. Thompson he's a guy that's been productive, but I can't really put my finger on why he's been so productive. Like, it's not like he's Brandon Jones and blitzing all the time, right? So that makes me nervous, but I hate that matchup with the Bears. I still told somebody, I think one of my sit-start recommendations last week on this program was to sit Ryan Neal because he's playing the Bears, and we're back in the same spot, man. Ryan Neal was okay, but it's in part because Foles played and not Fields. But if Fields is back out there, they're going to have about 50 plays on offense, and it's just a mess. So I would lean Jalen Thompson. I wouldn't love it, but yeah, that's where I'd go.
You're saying Jalen Thompson, Arizona, Dallas,
Arizona,
versus Dallas, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a strong matchup on paper.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely love that.
So you're going Jalen Thompson?
Mm-hmm.
Tripp, you're going Logan Ryan?
No. I'm going Jalen Thompson.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good, because I didn't want to break that. Mr. Gordy says IDP is everything. 100% correct. He's running two championships, 7 IDP each team. He lost Abram, Collins, and Adams, and Derwin got me last week. I'm looking desperately replacements with upside.
How many replacements? Replacements for each of them?
Abrams, that's like 3. That's a lot.
That is a lot.
Okay, well,
I'm sorry.
If you're talking about Abram, go get his replacement. Go get Levitt or whatever his name was. He did well last year or last week. Huh?
That worked out. That was what I was telling people to do last week. That Dallin Levitt guy that I was recommending last
week. 1 assist.
100% snaps. I got 1 freaking tackle on 100% snaps.
Yeah, I don't know if I could start Levitt, buddy.
I thought he had a good week.
No.
I apologize.
Take that back. You mean folks. 1 assist?
Levitt and Merrick both played 100% of the snaps, and Merrick had 3 tackles. So between the two of them, starting safeties playing all the snaps in a game had 4 total tackles. I don't know if people keep records on that thing, but that seems awfully low to me.
Hey, Gordy, I'm going to ask you to do me a favor, man. Go over to gridironratings.com, go to the IDP pull down tipster. This is one of those situations where you could go check out my start sit charts and just search these names, look over the charts. The free safety and safety chart is unlocked this week. So search that up and you'll use the words eyes on in the search bar too. But check those out. And if you don't find feasible replacements or you don't feel comfortable with it, please feel free to hit either one of us up or if you're using my charts, hit me up in a private DM and I'll be more than happy to split those IDP hairs with you because that's kind of a broad one when you're asking it, but I bet you will find your replacements you need in those charts.
Speaking of replacements, Gordy, I'm going to put your comment down, but pay attention to the next matchup. Eagles at Washington. Jeremy Reeves has had great back-to-back weeks. Are we firing him up against the Eagles?
It's funny you brought that up because I go the opposite way. He's making me a nervous wreck because the reason he was called up from the practice squad a few weeks ago, and he is producing, but at the same time, they've had all kinds of COVID issues. And it's like the first week that he got to play, I think Davis might have been out, Collins, I don't know. But either way, when I looked at the combination of the things, it still just sticks out that he's getting to play because these guys are on COVID. If those normal starters are back, you can't play him. He's not going to send Bobby McCain, which has moved to playing the free safety. Then you got Curl in there. You got Collins playing a hybrid safety role. And, you had Holt come out, Davis. Man, there's just been all kinds of problems. Jeremy Reeves is not an option and not a trustworthy option unless right before the game half of Washington doesn't have their the team in, and then you can go right ahead and use them. All
right. Tripp, Cole Holcomb's back. So I guess David Mayo's not a thing. We can get Mayo.
Right.
Hold the Mayo.
He played in a matchup, which he should have had plenty of opportunities to chase around Zeke and Pollard and didn't do much. So Forget about him.
Am I wrong about Reeves though? Would you trust him, Tripp?
No, I'm not looking to play him. I haven't seen if McCain's coming back or not, but yeah, he's not really on my radar. Curl is the guy that is more interesting as a play for me out of the two, and I somebody could say, oh well, Reeves is outstanding in the last couple of weeks. Well, I'm not going on that to continue.
Yeah, it's hard to screw around, folks, when you're at week 17.
Yeah,
you're going to regret it more this week than any other week if you go against the grain.
Yeah, at least if you got your guys in, if you got your guys in, you at least know you gave your best effort.
Yeah, but sometimes it feels good when those, shots.
That's it. That's during the season. That's when you.
I know. All right.
Right.
Question from Reddit. You homebrews. Sack heavy scoring. Very sack heavy. D-Law, Kyle Van Noy, or Harold Landry? Tripp.
Man, my first inclination is just to go see who's been giving up the most sacks out of these three teams and pick a guy, because I like those options. I don't love Kyle Van Noy, but he hasn't been as productive this year. But out of the other two, they're both interesting bets, right? And I know that Miami, they're all line is crummy. They get up a lot of pressure, but Tua tends to get rid of the ball pretty quickly. So then you're looking at DeMarcus Lawrence versus Kyler Murray, and the Ravens, or not the Ravens, the Cardinals' offense has looked out of sync the last several weeks, and so boy, that's a tough call. I like DeMarcus Lawrence a lot, but Landry has been, at least early in the season, was super productive, and I guess because DeMarcus Lawrence has been playing so well lately, I would lean him, but I could be. I don't feel.
Oh yeah. When it comes to Kevin Van Noy's actually had a decent little stretch this last 4 or 5 games where he's been producing. But I just went through. I've got him and I've got Landry marked just solid. They'll be okay. I wouldn't expect them to have a high ceiling in their matchups, but when it boils down to Landry, Landry's actually hit a wall the last 5 weeks. I think he's had like 1 week out of the last 5 possibly that he's actually doing what he had, really hit, I guess, because he was really killing it at the beginning of the season. But I have to agree exactly, D-Law all the way. It's a solid matchup with upside, just depending on how much Armstrong and Gregory get involved.
All right, let's go to the 4 p.m. games. Broncos at Chargers, another week and another 80% of the snaps for the lost Jonas brother, Jonas Griffith. Chargers are in the top half of the league and giving up points to LBs. Gary, you have him rostered and starting against me in our championship game.
Oh yeah, he served me so well last week. I needed that last week because of the whole situation. So I was happy to see that he was basically in this deep league that me and JJ are in. I was lucky he was there. So I'm really pleased with it. And right now, as of what I read a couple of hours ago, Kenny Young is not practicing. Of course, I don't think they actually held a practice today, but yesterday he did not participate. So as long as that holds, I'm comfortable leaving Griff in. Now, you need to get him on this dynasty radar, because this is another one of the things when they got a hold of this kid. I guess they actually meant to trade for him, picked him up off waiver wire. I didn't dig that far, but I don't think he's a natural born Bronco from the draft or anything. So, but they really like him, and they're actually just really pleased because they were not expecting to use him or see this come out of him. They were not. They thought he was just a death piece, and that was it. So I think he can send Young to the bench this week, even if Young is active. But that's a big 50-50. You'll see me. If Young's active, you'll see me pulling him out of my lineup. It's a solid matchup.
Anybody else?
It's just a solid matchup.
I'm kind of in the same place. You're talking about championship week. I tweeted about this a couple days ago. Jonas Griffith is playing roughly 80% of the snaps. Baron Browning is playing 100%. And he's still pretty widely available in MFL, he's been for weeks the most widely available 100% player at the linebacker position. And it's just bizarre to me. I haven't had a chance to watch the Broncos play, but just looking at numbers, I don't see a reason why Griffith is outproducing Browning on the stat sheet. So I don't know that I would bet for it to continue when Griffith is only playing 80% of the snaps versus Browning's 100. And that's assuming, like you said, that Ken Young doesn't return and split time or something with Jonas Griffith. I do think that Jonas Griffith is a little safer this week than last. I was just not even paying attention to Griffith at all last week, but he's played well. He's done enough that you might think that he might just stay out there ahead of Young because he's a young player they want to develop. So that's somewhat interesting. But you got to be pretty needy at the position to want to start him.
And as I mentioned, this is a deep league that I'm playing him in against JJ. We start 11 defensive guys or something like that, like 4 inside linebackers, something like 11 or 12 in it. But either way, I didn't even think about it because I know we're playing each other, but I haven't even looked at my roster. So I might have another linebacker that's sitting down there that was on COVID or something else that I did not play last week. So if I can, and he's a good player, I'm going to definitely take Griffith out, folks. Tripp hit it, hit the nail on the head.
Hey, quick question from Reddit. Reddit user Renro84. Joey Bosa, Kaiser White, or Bobby Okereke?
What kind of scoring format? Can we get
Joey Bosa, Kaiser White, or Bobby Okereke?
Can we get
the scoring format?
Oh, well, I mean, if it was a sack heavy, you would have to go Bosa. If you're in a tackle or a regular base, I'm going to go probably.
It's sounding like he needs one of these guys to replace Derwin James. So I'm thinking this is a small starting number.
Well, let's assume for a second that that he's on target with thinking that these guys have roughly equal value, meaning that he's playing a little bit big play scoring. Well, the next thing to consider for me is, what do I need? Am I a heavy favorite? And if so, I'm playing a linebacker to get points. If I'm an underdog, I'm playing Bosa because I need the sack upside. And that's just what it comes down to for me.
I like
so who are you taking then in this situation?
2 linebackers, I'm going to stick with Okereke because Kaiser White is not necessarily a full-time player. He's had some big tackle numbers. He's efficient when he's out there, but that makes me a little bit nervous. And Okereke is generally, or Okereke, however he's pronouncing it these days. He's playing the Raiders. We talked about Josh Jacobs doing a little bit more lately. So I would lean that way. To me, that's the safest play out of those 3. And so that's kind of the spectrum. He has them listed riskiest to safest. And so that's what it's coming down to for me is there's not a strong differentiation between those 3 players for me. It's just about what his risk tolerance and his matchup with his champion.
Yeah, first thing I'm going to mention is none of those 3 are really strong. They don't have bad matchups. They're just solid matchups. So, and I agree with what Tripp's saying there. And I'm going to go with Bobby as well.
All right. Next game, Texas at 49ers. We have Christian Kirksey. He played 34% of the snaps. Garrett Wallow and Neville Hewitt held strong. Tripp, are we playing any of these linebackers this week?
I have to say no, and I hate it because the Texans linebackers have been such a source of points all year, cheaply at that, right? The other one is Grugier Hill's looking at coming off the COVID list and returning as well. So we've got 4 guys there. And I also think that this is something that it's impossible to know is how sick are these guys? So when a guy like Kirksey comes back, Kirksey was the defensive play caller and captain all year. And so I assumed, all right, he's back. He's going to be back into his full-time role. And then he wasn't. Well, I think that's the conditioning is a big issue because the COVID disease attacks your lungs and you're gassed and you've lost stamina coming back. And we can't know. Maybe we can. Maybe there's somebody out there who's tracking this that has a full-time job to track this. But I don't know from where I sit necessarily how sick a guy was. Was he on the COVID list because he was a close contact? Was he sick? I don't know. And so for me, I started Kirksey last week and got burned. And so I'm not going back to any of these Texans linebackers because I just don't know what the snap mix is.
I could have swore Grugier Hill is back from COVID too. Mm-hmm. So this is just another one of those situations when I say about Tennessee and stuff, it's just a big headache. And if I can avoid it, I'm going to. And I mean, if I have to pick one out of there, if Grugier Hill is back, I'll probably go Grugier Hill because he seems to have turned into the Houston's Zach Cunningham to Tennessee's Grugier Hill to, which is it? I don't know, but they like these guys. So, but I'm really trying to avoid this altogether on both sides, Tennessee and Houston. Just do what you can. Hope Griffith is available.
Now, Gary, you asked, you posted something about Marcel Harris. With Azeez Al-Shaair back on the field, Marcel Harris saw his snaps drop. Are you still interested in Harris, Gary?
Well, I guess I mainly brought that up because he is a DB in most leagues or a safety. I don't think he's a cornerback, but in most sites he is. But if you look at 49ers.com and if you look at fantasy data where we get our information for Gridiron Ratings, he's a linebacker for them. So he played next to Warner last week. I'm just pointing this out. I really don't have a strong call on. I'm not going to play him, but I guess if somebody was really, in a deep hole in a deep format, and you thought that there was some kind of benefit to playing him at your DB spot, it might be okay. It might be solid enough. But I just wanted to bring that up. That's what's happened after all the problems that they've had at the inside linebacker position lately.
All right, Lions at Seahawks. Jalen Reeves-Maybin is back to playing all the snaps. Derek Barnes is back to a limited role, but we did see Brady Breeze play some snaps last week. Is he someone to monitor, Tripp?
Brady Breeze? No.
I just like saying the name. How I like players' names.
Yeah.
Goes rolling off the tongue.
I mean, come on. That's alliteration. You have two quarterbacks in the same, first and last. Come on.
It's a beautiful thing.
Anybody else in this matchup you're looking at, Tripp?
Oh man, this is a messy game here. The Lions and the Seahawks. The one I gotta give a shout out to is Chris Harris, and that's something that Gary has been on earlier in the year. It's a guy that I've been poo-pooing. And man, this guy, it's amazing. He's had a good season. He's on his third team. He's like fifth year in the league, and he's finally putting them together. And you gotta like it. You gotta like this matchup. Russell Wilson has been giving up sacks his whole freaking career. Might as well roll that guy out there and see what you get.
Yep.
All right, next up, Cardinals at Cowboys. This could be a high octane offensive contest. Should we fire up all of our DBs?
Oh, yeah, I'm excited about the DBs. Everybody knows to start Trevon Diggs. Byron Murphy, I'm not sure if everybody knows to fire him up, but he needs to be fired up. He's the full-time guy that plays in the slot there for the Cardinals. And then the other guy, Anthony Brown, is the guy that people have been picking on all year because that was the guy that was supposed to be replaced by J.C. Horn or Pat Surtain, and then wasn't because the way the draft broke. And so he's been out there getting picked on all year, and so he's a good start too.
Yeah, you can go over and you can grab a couple of those main starting defensive linemen, interior defensive linemen, not the outside guys, but get the inside guys for Arizona because Dallas has been giving up a lot to those interior defensive tackles. I think you got a Phillips there. He might have missed last week. Trying to think through the two guys' names. I always get them screwed up with Oliver and them on Buffalo. But
lucky folks who have Richard Lawrence or the IDLs there. They're young guys, two sophomores, so they'll get a little bit of run.
Yeah. It's a good matchup by default on them. So I'm not telling you to go drop Aaron Donald for these guys, but if you're in a deep format and you're looking for somebody, these dudes will have to basically lay down to not produce something.
All right. Panthers at Saints. Brian Burns had a paltry 3 assists against the formidable Tampa line. Now, New Orleans is not as stout, and Taysom Hill is back. Are we trusting Brian Burns this week, Garrett?
Not full-heartedly. If I've got a better option at that level name in the business, I'm definitely probably looking elsewhere. But if he's got you there and that's all you got, then you got to play him. You got to play him over reaching for somebody else.
This might be the Josh Allen-esque moment. I like Burns, so I'm playing Burns. Heck, I'd even look at Derek Brown, who's been a bit of a disappointment. Well, a big disappointment, I would say, is an idea.
Yeah, I've got him down. I got Brown as a sit this week.
Yeah.
Yeah. DeMonte Jones or whatever on there has been more. He's gotten more snaps over the last few weeks and been more productive. So but I don't like that matchup against the Saints at all for that defensive line, to tell you the truth. And I'm worried about his son Riddick. I mean, he might pull this as a divisional game. He might get in the backfield, but he's another one of those like Landry and such has been struggling. Did we hit on? Have we hit on what yet? Did we talk about Pittsburgh?
Nope, they play Monday.
That's why.
So on the other side of the ball, Marcus Davenport had another great week against Miami with 5 total tackles, a forced fumble, and a sack. He has to be a top 5 option, right? In D-lines.
We just need to start talking about year 4 breakouts or year 5 breakouts between Charles Harris, a couple of years ago, and Davenport now. It's like, and part of that is it's a real thing in the sense that it takes a long time for pass rushers to develop in the NFL. This is a guy that was drafted out of University of Texas at San Antonio. I don't even know if they're not Division II or some nonsense. And the friggin' Saints paid too much to get him because of the developmental time. But now they got him, and he's finally starting to produce. And he's an attractive situation this week. I'll get him out there.
Yeah, Davenport, Jordan, both of them have really strong matchups. I mean, it's Panthers they're like top 5, giving up production to the edge, and then what's his name? I'm going to mispronounce it.
David Onyemata.
Yes, he is a solid play as well.
All right,
we got the situations with their linebackers. Are they off COVID yet? Davis and Alexander?
Even if they are, I mean, that's the thing. The last couple of games that Davis has not been very productive as of IDP. And, we talked about the potential that he's limited. I'm not eager to start any Saint linebackers this week. And I don't even know who's carrying the ball. They had Amir Abdullah and Chuba Hubbard. Seemed like earlier in the season he was going to be the 1-for-1 replacement for McCaffrey, and then that didn't stick. So I'm not eager to start any Saints linebackers if I can help it.
No. Warner saved my ass last week.
Who did?
Warner. Filling in for him, he did me justice.
All right, question from Rodolfo. I have 2 teams where Darius Leonard was on IR due to COVID. I need to take him out of IR. Would you start him over the options I have? Team 1, drop TJ Edwards. And Team 2, drop Okereke. Yes. Darius Leonard just came off of
Did he just come
COVID.
Off? Oh, wow.
Yeah, B.R. Gordy let us know that he cleared this morning.
Okay.
He is clear. You would drop both Edwards. And I'm saying Bobby's name wrong, so I will not say his last name until I know.
So he needs to drop both of them? Would you start?
2 different teams.
Two different leagues.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
But I would take Leonard over both of those, right, guys?
Yeah, it's funny, right? Darius Leonard's like the LB6 overall, and he's a disappointment. Like, just think about that. I mean, this guy's awesome.
Yeah, you're talking about one of the. I mean, it's arguably everybody had Devin White coming into the season over Leonard. I mean, 90%. I did not, but 90% of people had White ranked over him. Leonard's he's non-size. He's like Bobby Wagner, just a young version. He's so far year in, year out. If he's healthy, he's in there.
All right, gentlemen. Next up, the Sunday night game. Vikings at the Packers. Barr and Kendricks are both slated to start. Are we starting them both? I know we talked about Kendricks earlier. Tripp said you're happy to have him back.
Yeah, I don't mess with Barr. I mean, you got to be in a super good matchup to want to start him. It's just Kendricks out of those 2.
Yeah, Kendricks is my guy. Gary, where are you at?
Unless it's a deeper league. I mean, Barr has had his moments, but it would have to be a deep format for me to go there. Kendricks is solid this week. I believe the matchup overall, I think they're on both sides of the ball. Don't expect any huge splash plays. I think it'll be just solid across the board.
Now, Jair Alexander is back from IR, activated in the past couple of days. Are we starting him in cornerback required leagues, Tripp?
Man, I didn't see that he was activated, man. That's pretty exciting, right? I mean, he's playing Justin Jefferson. Like, I don't hate that. I think to Gary's point, you're not eager to start a guy that's coming off IR. Right? Is he going to be shadowing Justin Jefferson on his first game out? I don't know.
Big ask.
Yeah. IR and week 17. The only thing this did was screw up playing Stokes.
Yeah.
All right.
I could see it, but I wouldn't be. That's not my priority.
All right. Last matchup is Monday night, Browns at Steelers. Now, this is rumored to be the final game for Ben in Pittsburgh. TJ Watt is playing through cracked ribs, but has been playing less snaps. Do we start him this week in a meaningless game, or does the team rally and try to play inspired football to vault them into the playoffs?
Me first. All right. The reason I want to go
for your hand up first.
Oh, come on,
Gary, go ahead.
So I really wanted to talk about him and Garrett tonight.
Yeah, I'm a teacher. I never call on the guy who raises his hand.
Right. Well, how am I supposed to get your attention? So we're going to look at it. We seen it last week. He's not 100%. He's playing with cracked ribs. He's just wanting to get through the rest of the season. Shoot, what they're really doing right now is he's managing his starts. He wants to continue playing for that reason. He's got his own incentives. He's got cracked ribs. You don't think Cleveland Brown offensive linemen and running backs don't know that he's got cracked ribs, and we need to get him out of there. All right. I didn't trust him last week. And I'm 90% sure that I told everybody to be careful and go somewhere else if you could. I'm going to say it again this week. If you've got another option at that level, go ahead and take it, because I don't know. He worries me. He did have a really good game the first time he played the Browns. I don't think we're going to see that to this time. When it comes to Heidi Smith, he didn't get in the backfield. The Browns are actually pretty good at protecting the edge normally. So Heidi Smith is not Watt. I think he's solid enough to play, but I wouldn't play him in a linebacker position. And if I'm playing him as an edge rusher, if he happens to be a DL in some leagues, he's just going to be solid. I think he got like 1 tackle and 3 assists, maybe a tackle for a loss the first time that they played this. And that's solid production. If he gets in the backfield, it'll be luck.
Well, based on last week's game, it seems the best defense isn't to sack Zach Baker. It's just let him pass, because then he gives you the ball, and it's a lot easier to
does it to himself.
There you go. But now with the Browns on the verge of elimination, Tripp, should we count on Myles Garrett to keep playing through his groin injury, or?
I mean, he didn't look like the same player last week, did he? I mean, that's the thing. If you're playing this, we got a lot of folks listening playing 6 IDPs. You probably have a better option at your 2 DL spots than Myles Garrett based on his health. If you got 3 DNs for some reason, 3 DLs, you're starting to Myles Garrett starts into the conversation as your 3rd guy. But it's tough.
I would go out on a limb if I was sitting. No, serious. If I needed the win this week, and I needed it in a big way, if I was the underdog, I would love it to play Davenport or Jordan Cameron over either one Watt.
Don't play Jordan Cameron. He's not in the league. You want to play Cam Jordan.
Or Cam Jordan. Right. Okay, we got the right one. We get the Saints guys. But I'll tell you what, I might be interested if I was really needing a home run to go and look at Miami's Phillips, which we were just talking about a little while ago. And that's a stretch. That's how far I don't want to play these 2 guys if I got him.
Is Clowney back this week? Jadeveon?
Yeah, but you can't. If he is back, you still can't depend on, him having like an outstanding game. Like I said, it's the numbers aren't there.
Say you are playing somebody who calls himself the IDP hipster. Would you play Jadeveon Clowney against that person?
No.
Would you give me honest advice even if I was playing you, Gary?
I don't know.
See, now, oh, wait, we have one more question. Rodolfo is back. Start Holcomb or Deion Jones? I'm going Deion Jones, right?
it goes back to that COVID situation, right? I like the matchup with the recently run heavy Philadelphia Eagles, but I don't know how sick Holcomb was. Jones is a good player. Just keep him out there.
Gary?
I lost you for a minute. Who is it?
Deion Jones or Cole Holcomb?
Jones this week. Yeah, there's nothing
Unanimous,
special about
Rodolfo.
Yeah, there's nothing special about Holcomb's. We did hit that very first question, right? I hate to ask you that, JJ, considering, but I told this guy, okay.
Yeah,
I think it was Lynn something.
Lynn
okay. All right, Lynn. I've been talking to Lynn. Hi, Lynn. It's nice to meet you.
I got a question from a listener. I ought to put it out here. I guess I should have brought it up when you mentioned Jalen Reeves-Maybin. The question is Joe Tryon, Baron Browning, or Jalen Reeves-Maybin? What do you got, Gary?
Maybin and who else?
Jalen Reeves-Maybin, Baron Browning, and Joe Tryon.
I'm going Maybin.
Wow. That's interesting. That'd be my third choice out of those three.
I'd go Tryon, Browning, Reeves-Maybin in that order.
It would depend for me on the matchup situation. Like if I felt like I was the favorite, I would probably stick with Browning, but I do like Tryon's upside. That's pretty attractive.
Well, with Devin Bush still on the COVID list, are we firing up our shares of Mickey Spillane? I'm sorry, that's a joke for old people. Robert Spillane?
He's going to bring down the hammer if Devin Bush stays on the COVID list.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's nice to talk to people my own age.
Yeah, I got if he's for sure. If Devin Bush doesn't play, then Spillane is a strong start. I'm liking that a lot. So, but it's all about, does Devin Bush return? You know, because even if he's splitting snaps with Spillane, then that's no good. So,
yeah, no split snap situations. All right, gentlemen, we did a little bit of overtime this week, but it's championship week, and that's what is needed. So,
really enjoyed it.
Final thoughts. You can find Tripp at Dynasty Tripp on Twitter. His work is at dynastyfootballfactory.com. Tripp, any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, we had our man asking about upside safeties, and I got to say, sometimes this start business is really hard, and then sometimes it's kind of easy. And for our man that needs upside safeties, I would point to the fact that we have teams that, you know, I don't know if Waller's playing or not. He might play. But between Darren Waller, Mark Andrews, and George Kittle, we have the three biggest name tight ends in the NFL. And it just so happens that those three guys are playing safeties that are probably on the waiver wire, that are probably pretty good options because they show a general split between strong and free in their terms of their deployment. So that man needs to just, hunt out and chase those guys down. As we talked about Rapp. We got Odom playing Waller, and we got forget the guy playing the 49ers, but Eric Murray is coming back off the COVID list, and he the riskiest start out of those three playing George Kittle. And sometimes it's just that easy. Sometimes you just say who has a really strong matchup, and you roll with that guy, and you've got to rank him as I just did. But good options this week.
Finally, the OG of IDP can be found at the IDP Tipster on Twitter. Subscribe to Gridiron Ratings for all of his IDP analysis. Gary, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm just going to circle right back around and kind of tag along what Tripp was saying. Folks, I got my start-sit charts open. I got the inside linebacker, the safeties, the edge rushers, and the interior defensive lineman. And exactly what he's talking about with these matchups is all considered in this 5-step formula that we use. And it's a proven formula. It's been around for 6 years now. I've had it going for about 15 on my own before I ever started sharing it. Go check those out at gridironratings.com for me on the Tipster's office page, and check those matchups out. Just use the search, put the names in, hit those eyes on search too, because that'll bring up some things you might not have known about some players, stock up, stock down, anything like that. And again, this is probably the closing of our regular season, because when we come back next week, JJ will tell you what we got lined up, but it's not going to be starting sits, because hopefully you are not in a championship that's happening week 18, folks.
Oh, dear God, no. I can't even imagine between COVID, IR, and people just sitting because it's the the last week of the regular season. That would be a nightmare. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm at JJ Wenner on Twitter. You can follow my crew at Rider Dynasty on Twitter. Thank you, Tripp and Gary, for this entire season. This has been a blast. Thank you to everyone out there. This was a great way to end with a lot of people asking questions. You're always welcome. Hit us up on Twitter. Any questions you have, that's why we are here. Remember, you can catch our old episodes on Spotify, Apple, and wherever podcasts can be found. And make sure you turn in on Tuesdays to the IDP First Take with Craig Reith and the crew. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, your path to the title starts with Gridiron Ratings. Good luck. You been drinking, Gary?
No.
Yeah.